Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to work on this. This is another one of the stones that Pulitzer Opal sent me. Like two of the other ones, it's Mintaby. It's a fairly dark Mintaby, pretty nice. This one's got a few problems. So if we have a look on this side, there's some insane color just in this top edge right here. But just off to the side, you can see there's a little bit of an inclusion, and if we flip her over, we'll see there are some other major inclusions, some of which go past this color bar and into this potch layer. So unfortunately this bottom bar is really not overly useful, even though it does have some really nice color in here. Yeah, as you can see here, really deep inclusions that go all the way through the color. And then even where the good color is, still some of those inclusions and a little bit of sand beneath the surface. So not great. You can see even more just in that corner there. If we look side on, this stone is actually a little interesting. It's got this potch line going right between them. It's a little bit of a diagonal potch line, so you can see it just here, smaller one there, and that goes all the way around. And I think, having looked at this stone for a while now, the best face we can get is not dead on like this. I reckon we'll give it a slight twist to here. So we're going to have to bring this edge back down, round it out, and then we should end up with a fairly nice stone. I'll probably cut this one out. The inclusion goes right through it seems, so we'll just have it on this angle. Probably slice that one down and then take off a little bit along that potch line, and we should end up with a pretty decent stone just there. Submerge it so you can get an idea of the color. Right about there. Even dead on like this, you can see it starts getting a little shy and potchy. So even tilting it that small amount, we're going to get a really nice, fairly skinny stone, but definitely usable. It's going to be a few carats worth of pretty nice color if you have a look at that. And for a pendant, that'll dangle and that'll be really nice. So let's get it ready for that pendant. And away we go, starting off 600 grit sintered diamond with fully exposed color. And normally I would say don't use a sintered diamond burr, but because it's Mintaby and it's such a hard stone and we've got a lot of work to do, I do have to go with the 600 grit sintered diamond, even though we are basically rubbing off a lot of color. And here I'm just looking at the edges, having a look, trying to get the orientation right, and I just want to show this because this isn't something I've done on the channel. Every now and then, if you get a really strange shaped stone, hold it so that you've got the face that you want, and then just rub the back flat, just to start with. It gives you something to put against your finger behind it to support the stone while you're working on the face. And it just helps you lock in that orientation. So here I'm just rubbing it back very carefully. You don't want to rub it back and get the wrong backing. So you just want to be a little bit careful of it. Rest it on your finger and just make sure you've got that nice, stable, flat surface behind it. Just giving you a good guide on the orientation. Otherwise you can find that you can get lost. Carving is a slow process. I go at this particular step for about 30 minutes or so to get this stone shaped up. And in that time, you really don't want to be doing the whole thing wrong. You want to be using your time efficiently, and it's really important, particularly with Mintaby, that you get that face correct. Otherwise, you're going to end up pretty unhappy with yourself 30 minutes later. It's not a fast process, so you just want to make sure you're on the right track for the whole time and you don't veer off too much. Because it's a lot easier to get it right the first time than to backtrack. And you can see here holding it, that left edge, that's a bit of a fried egg look. That's when you've got the potch just hanging off the side of the color. Sure, if you're bezel setting something, you will cover most of it up or some of it up, but it's best just not to be there at all. So we're going to bring that in, and I'm doing all the way in, not because I'm worried about the fried egg look. It's mostly because that is the distance I have to go in to be able to take the other side in the same amount and get rid of those really dark inclusions there. But we will flash forward because this is a pretty slow process, and I also did a lot of it off camera anyway because I needed to focus, and it's hard to do when you've got a camera in your face, which is currently how I record. Not the best. And you can see here, that's the stone. Basically fully shaped up. There's a couple little spots that I'm not that happy with, and I'll fix up with the 280 grit Nova. But like I always say, 280 grit Nova is not for shaping. You want to avoid that as much as possible. And with Mintaby, it's actually easier because it stands up against the sintered diamond, so you can do pretty much everything with the 600 grit sintered diamond. You just can't do the polishing, and you can't just go from a 600 sintered diamond to cerium oxide. So here we're going with the 280 grit Nova. And we're just going to speed up the footage because essentially I'm just going through and getting the doming and everything correct right where I want it. You can see there I had a good catch on that fumble. Sometimes the stone will shoot off. Unfortunately, because I'm here working the back and I'm working the front and I'm working the sides, I would have liked to have docked this stone. If I wasn't working the back, this one would have 100% been docked, just so that I've got better access to the sides and the face of the stone and a lot more control over positioning. But in this case we want the back as well, so I'm going to polish up the entire thing, which makes it super slippery. You would not believe how slippery this stone gets because it's nice and skinny, and with a high polish it is, it's impossible to grip. So you can see here, sometimes I do it right above the water and splash water everywhere. It's not ideal, but it does keep the stone wet, and luckily enough I've got a shield that catches all that water. But you're going to see I'm just going through, hitting the whole surface and just getting that final shaping done. And then I hand it over to the full gang, the full team. And that team includes all of the Novas. So we're going 600 grit, 1200, 3000, and the cerium oxide. If you want to know why I go from 280 to 3000, you can check out a recent video where I showed it all off on a slide and I showed every Nova point and showed you what they look like under the microscope. It makes a lot more sense then, but essentially the 3000 gets you a really good platform, especially when carving, to jump across the cerium oxide. Why I'm using cerium oxide on this one? We've got opal 360 degrees on this one. Everything is opal. We've got no inclusions really. We've got no major ironstone matrix. We've got no sandstone matrix, nothing like that. So cerium oxide is just an absolute killer when it comes to shining up any kind of pure silica, hydrated silica, opal. It will do a really good job. So no aluminium oxide on this one, just cerium oxide, and it gets really shiny. So I'll show you that now. Well, that's the end of that one, and I've got to say, I think I've had the most fun with this stone out of any carving in a little while. It's come out really well. I have had to remove a lot to get it to this point, but I think it's all been worth it. You can see here there's this nice little crackle that this fire just lights up in this stone, and at different angles it's completely different colors, the player color we really want. I've made it fairly high domed just because it's a pretty skinny stone and it tends to be easier to do on those ones. And it's not a big stone either, but it's going to be a really nice pendant. I'm not entirely sure on which way it should go. I'll have to play with it a little bit more and see how it dances in the light. And one thing I didn't expect to do with this stone, but I am going to do, is I've kept a lot of thickness, and it's okay. I've got some bezel strip that'll reach all the way from one side to the other, so that's not going to be a huge problem. And it's because I've managed to get the inclusions out of this backside, and because the stone is fully polished, this thing is slippery as hell, but I managed to get the back nicely cleared up of any inclusions. There's a couple tiny bits and pieces here and there. It was never going to completely disappear, and it gets a little bit close to the potch bar in that corner just over here, but it has retained a bit of color. So I think bezel setting with this being predominantly open, so a fairly open back, should be pretty nice. I've kept it very flat, so the back is still flat, and I've taken the edge off it as well. And then you'll see if I hold it in the right angle, the sides are pretty dead straight and nice and flat. So the bezel wire will sit around it, and then I've just got to wrap it, just curl it slightly around here and just hug that little edge that I've set. Really nice stone, really bright. It comes across a bit milkier in the camera than it is in person. I think that's just the lighting not being overly kind. Typically I only get that effect when the diffuse light is being used, but this is fairly direct light. I'll have to see what it looks like in the sun. I'm sure it'll look absolutely amazing, and I think it does have to dangle from this direction because I'm pretty sure if the weight is on the bottom it'll move around a lot more, and the color is, it's going to pop either way, but I want to get it the best I can. So yeah, future pendant stone, great piece of Mintaby. The stuff polishes really well. If you look at the back side, because it's easier to get a reflection, it does come up an absolute treat. It's just such a nice material to work with, especially when it's a decent grade like this. A lot of the sad Mintaby that you've seen me work on the channel doesn't come across as well as this, but believe it or not, the potch does polish really quickly and really easily as well. Definitely worth practicing on, but to get actual color, Mintaby can be a nightmare. And you can see what that tiny little bit of angle change has done to this stone. It was a little bit potchy at its original face, but it's come up quite well. And I was thinking of slicing down the middle, but nah, we're just going to keep it as a double-sided stone and just have a really, really thick bezel wrap around it. Beautiful stone. I don't know which of these stones I've already released videos on. Hopefully I'm not spoiling anything too much, but we've got a bunch of stones here. These are all from Pulitzer Opal, great man, and I am working with these scraps and getting some fairly nice stones out of it. Maybe it's not my favorite. This one was actually quite fun to work on the channel pretty early. That pill-shaped one was pretty basic, pretty standard. But yeah, for some reason this one had a lot of fun in it. And yeah, I'll chuck it in my little suspension box, keep it with the collection, and they're all stones that I've got to work on setting. So I've got a massive pile of them, and I just got to get the techniques right to be able to start giving it a good crack, and you'll see that on the channel. You may see me set some potch beforehand, maybe even crack some stones. Who knows, I might maybe not reveal the very rookie mistakes that I've been making, but you'll have to hang around to find out. I'll see you when I've got the next stone on the surgery table. Catch you guys.